Origin Chess Home Series Reaction. This is how the Emperor of Japan secretly held power, featuring the Federation unsubscribe clips channel. Yeah, this type of videos really interest me a lot because I was surprised when I learned that America actually threw papers before bombing Japan. Like, oh, by the way, we are going to bomb this place. Go to safety. It's like, by the way, I'm so powerful than you. And I know this is necessary to how to do this because of symbolism or whatever, or like teach you to like calm down or whatever. I'm gonna punch you in the face now. You're not gonna do anything about it. So yeah, just like, secure yourself so you don't fall and hit your head on the curb or something. This is that shit, right? It's like nobody does that. I've seen ridiculous shit. Look at even nowadays all the bombings that's happening everywhere, right? Look at the hate humans have for each other at the level. And while Americans like always like, okay, by the way, we're gonna do this, like giving advance warning and shit. I've seen that many times, and happening doing that in World War II really surprises me. So it's gonna be really interesting, like how Japan and Japan's emperor, how that all worked, because I don't think I've watched many videos on that. All the honor-based system, right? And you can't really refuse emperor and thing. I'm pretty sure there's like loosely I know about things, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that all works and take of Electrician, I guess. So let's watch it.
I've been studying the Emperor of Japan.
Oh yes,
for about a month.
This is during World War II period. Emperor of Japan. Okay.
So
clarify.
There's a very
they've had a few.
So like the official narrative right now is that the Emperor of Japan was basically a powerless figurehead, and that the the branches of the military, like the top military officials, were actually running the Japanese government.
That goes back to like the daimyo period when
I don't believe any of it.
Okay, never mind. Daimyo period.
I guess similar to how shogunate worked. Well, emperor was like just a figure, where shoguns, basically this military general like figures of the time ran things, shoguns and shogunate, right? Group of militia and the leaders and like one ultimate shogun. They basically, samurais basically, they ran the place, while emperor was just kind of like a figurehead. I'm guessing that's what they mean. Similar things was during the World War II time. I don't know much about that. I don't know. Was that the case? Because I thought there's like a news of old.
Period. They did, like, it was a placeholder and the daimyo would rule.
So like, I don't believe it. I don't believe any of it. I think the Emperor of Japan in World War II was like signing off on all of it.
Yes.
Okay. So like,
he was a god in that time. He was revered as a god.
So, and if you go back and look at it, like the Imperial Japanese Constitution, if you look at it's like I think it's articles 11 through 15 are literally like, the emperor has the final say on everything. The emperor is in charge of this. The emperor is in charge of that. The emperor is in charge of this. The emperor is in charge of that. Like, it's in the Constitution. It's written out. And then when it came to surrendering for Japan, the tiebreaker between the committee of the six that got to decide if Japan would surrender or not, the tiebreaker was the emperor. And there's a historian, his last name is Bix. I can't remember his first name. He wrote a whole book about it. It's really good. But he kind of lays out the whole case for it, and it's like, fuck, I think he's right, because he's like, no, the dude had power. He knew what he was doing the whole time, and the reason that America plays along with the emperor being the powerless figurehead was America was basically hoping that by allowing the emperor to not face a tribunal for war crimes, it would make it easier for Japan to basically join the world again and be a productive member of it.
Oh, that makes sense, right? Because American government and military had to think about that, and obviously people would demand something like Nuremberg trial level of shit. And after knowing how things happened with Germany after World War I, it's like the faster we can move forward from this, faster things get better. I kind of see America's point at that level. But I'm pretty sure they were like, not completely like, oh, he had no power. Because if that was the case, that famous footage of like, who was that, General MacArthur? Who was that? I don't know. That general basically standing, alongside Emperor, and like Emperor looks really small compared to him, like this kind of like ego type photo. That wouldn't have that much impact if like suppose that Emperor had no power. So I don't think there was like, oh, he has no power type of way. Just yeah. And obviously by that point it was like, he's appointed by God, this and that. That was the element. That's how usually all, like emperors and monarchs basically play the card to get. You can't be a dictator if you don't hold absolute power, and they have to like go through this religious God element to like explain to like how they hold power. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case with Emperor of Japan.
Of the global society. And that's basically why you had MacArthur parading the God Emperor around, taking pictures with MacArthur's 6'5" ass next to his 5'4" whatever, being like,
and this guy
here's your
again,
God King, whatever.
This guy was never photographed before. Like,
could you imagine they released some unreleased photo and where he's doing this to Emperor of Japan? Oh, hello. So like insult to injury there.
They never heard his voice.
Well, they never heard his voice on the radio. So when he surrendered, it was like a big deal in Japan.
Yes.
And there was actually like everybody, when they heard that the emperor was going to be on the radio and they were going to hear his voice for the first time, they were dressing up like they were going to fucking church.
This is
to
a
hear
god
his voice on the radio.
That's
a
wild.
god,
Yeah.
a god figure. This is
Right.
how Kim Jong-il essentially
Right.
was
So like
revered.
the predominant narrative has literally been that, like, oh, Emperor Hirohito was like just dicking off in his palace playing with koi fish, and it's like, no, he wasn't. He was fucking.
So no, excuse my
Go ahead.
ignorance on.
If you go to North Korea right now, you won't find many people who directly says anything bad about the emperor. Obviously because of like threat of like imprisonment and worse. But if you do that enough, people's way of thinking becomes that. Like you can't say anything bad about God, and that becomes their thing. It started out as like out of fear, and eventually it gets molded into a societal way of thinking. Like, why would you say anything bad about God or our leader, basically, which is the same thing. That's how most of the emperors and like dictators go about, right? And eventually that element comes in, right? Like that's basically a God or appointed by God. Don't you dare even say anything bad. It usually starts as like a fear, and like eventually generation after generation becomes just a thing. You don't say anything bad about the emperor. That's it.
On Japanese history at that time frame, but in the 40s, was it still a genealogical monarchy kind of thing? Like it was his kids, or
So the theory was, I'm not super
believe-
versed on
Yeah,
Shintoism, but it's literally like you have the yin and the gods of the yin and the yang, and then you had the light god. There's like tiers of gods almost. So you had like yin and yang, and then which is kind of like the universe essentially.
Yeah.
And then you had the god of light, the sun, and the emperor.
order
was,
and chaos.
the emperor was the son of the sun god. So like he was basically like Hercules, like he was a
I mean, yeah, Japan just said that like, sun god as the god, right? Like I remember, wait a minute. Man, it's been so while since I watched OSP videos. Like, am I forgetting something? But yeah, I'm pretty sure like sun god, that's the main god, right? Like even in Egyptian lore, like Ra is basically sun god. And sun god just basically means sun. You revere sun. And that kind of makes sense, right? If you go far back, right? Who would you make into god or thing that's a god? Sun, basically. That's give you life. That's everything. Sun is everything. Imagine back then when people didn't have much of anything. Night was like just horrible. When daylight comes, it's like everything's good. Sun is the one you attach as a god. There is not a single mythology you will find where sun isn't a god. Obviously, I'm guessing not Christianity and things. Abrahamic religion, I'm pretty sure. Is sun a god in there? No, there is no god, right? So apart from Abrahamic religions, like most older mythologies things, sun is always a god, right? And some of like Egyptian, like Japanese, sun is the god.
god,
Right.
god
still through
level
genetics.
figure, but still genetics. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you had so you had daimyos, and then you had what was it? Daimyos was samurai was under, that was the fourth in the rank. Daimyos and shogun. So daimyo, shogun. So emperors, daimyo, shogun, samurai.
What's a daimyo? I just assume he just meant shoguns. Wait a minute, I need to Google this. He has it wrong. Daimyos just mean like the landowners, basically regional, what is it called in English? Barons, right? That's what barons mean. That's what daimyo is, I think, right? And shogun is like the whole country's like the leader, like shogun, and basically samurai band's leader at that larger scale, basically. So daimyos can be like a samurai leader of a specific area or something like that, or landowner, whatever, warlord. And the main shogun was the guy who ruled everyone. And that shogun always had the power, because emperor just became like a figurehead during that feudal Japan time, right?
Nobunaga was the one that almost unified
Fucking
it,
weeb.
and then the other guy, I forget his name. He's the one that actually he took over Nobunaga. He unified it, but the god, the emperor, is the one that stayed in charge. Always, never in charge though during that time period. That was like the shogun and the daimyo were the ones that were like.
Basically, that's the I'm pausing too much, but okay, comment down if you don't like me pausing. But emperor is always the leader because of like political reasons and religious reasons. If you attach emperor to God, I mean, this is not just Japan thing, everywhere, even in Europe, right? When you attach someone to God, which is basically your king, monarch, emperor, you have to have them as like a figurehead. Even if you keep them on the threat and just like symbolistic, technically they are the leader. Technically they have the last say. But they might not have last say because they're just figureheads. Like they don't really have power. It's like shogun can tell him like, okay, you're gonna sign here because I say so, because I have power, you don't. But technically in like this social structure, people see you as God. So you are still the main guy, I guess. Right? Usually when some kid becomes a king or something, similar shit happens where somebody, general or somebody who's really in charge, but kid kind of like ceremoniously just have last say and shit like that. Similar thing, I'm guessing.
We're killing people, and the king was like, I'm not gonna fuck with these dudes. Yes.
Here is the Imperial Japanese Constitution. So before America overthrew them, Articles 11 through 13. Article 11, the Emperor has supreme command of the Army and Navy. Article 12, the Emperor determines the organization of peace, standing of the Army and Navy. Article 13, the Emperor declares war, makes peace, and concludes treaties. Period. Hirohito himself sanctioned the attack on Pearl Harbor. He was briefed on every military action and was allowed to intervene whenever he saw fit, which was almost never. So like on the Council of Six that made all the decisions, one of those six was like his servant, his like right-hand guy that was sitting on the council basically representing his interest. And then if there was ever a tie, he would go in to break the tie, which is what happened when they surrendered in World War II. So, yeah.
So kind of like the vice president.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with Federation, but there's a chance where Emperor could be not really one in the power. Because everything Federation just said there, technically that applies. But like I just said, that's how it goes. Emperor might as well be a god. He has the last say. But does he though? So military generals, if they seize power somehow, but in the public eye, emperor still have to be the one in charge. All these articles still apply. So this military general or team of them could just tell him like, you're going to do this, you're going to sign at this, you're going to see this order, you're going to have the final say, and this is the say, you're going to say it. Why? Because I say so. Right? I'm the military general. I'm the military. Right? You don't have any power any longer because I have the one. If you don't go along with us, you're gonna have some accident or something. It's not gonna be good for our country at the wartime. So you're still not gonna have any power, but your country is gonna be fucked. What do you choose? There's many elements goes there. So it could be that, right? So what list Federation says doesn't necessarily mean that he was in absolute power. That applies to all kings and emperors. They can be like just ceremoniously, just like someone who's a figurehead but doesn't really have power because some internal politics change that factor.
President does over Congress.
Basically, yeah.
Or over the Senate, rather.
I love that.
And then it kind of brings into the whole thing of like, well, if the emperor wasn't powerful and he was just a figurehead, why did they try to overthrow him when they heard that he was going to surrender? Like, why do you need to overthrow a guy that doesn't have power?
It's like the king in England right now.
Right.
Like, okay, so what?
Yeah. Like, why would you bother to overthrow him? It's because he actually did have all the fucking...
It's not that. I think it's the social element. When I say social, I mean the public eye, right? If public, like he said, if emperor's gonna come on the radio, everybody's just gonna like dress nicely. If they literally see him as a god, and what he does matter, like even like simplistic things, right? if you basically show him as like someone who's defeated or like weakened, the public morale will go down and public will go along together type of way, even if he's not in the power, because his concept, his figurehead element matters to people. It's all about the people in the end. Like you don't want like people rising up from other part of the Japan, basically saying like, oh, we don't surrender, even if somebody says so. So you need someone like Emperor to say, oh, by the way, we are surrendering, and everybody's just like, if God himself is saying that, might as well.
In power. So I don't know. I'm not convinced.
The people. It's a hard one because it is how the general public looks at it. If they viewed him as that, it's hard to push back.
But it makes complete sense as to like why America would be like, okay, no, we're gonna roll with that. That way you don't have to get convicted for war crimes. We'll make all of your people happy because their God gets to stay alive. You get to tell your people to chill, like go make Toyotas and radios and shit, and be a productive member of society.
Yeah, but America can also tell its people like it's a different element with him, and we can't really prosecute him. Otherwise, the people might become unruly because they actually see him as God, and people would have understood that after that, I guess. Right? Or maybe I'm being naive. I don't know.
And everybody fucking wins. That's 100% what happened though. Like it's the same thing with like everybody's mad that there's like Confederate statues and bases are named after Confederate generals. Like the reason that was done. I understand the narrative is that like, oh, they were trying to scare, black people or whatever. And it's like there might have been a small degree of that, but by a larger part, it was trying to bring the South back into the fold of like, hey, we want you guys to be part of the fucking team here. Well, we'll respect your exactly, and it makes sense.
How dare you, Electrician? How dare you say that? You racist! I can already hear the comments. What Electrician is saying here is a larger political element that people have to think about. Even if people don't agree with it, I kind of see that. Confederacy lost. So in order to bring them smooth transition, you have to appease even the people who got defeated, because you don't want to like just hit them with hammer over and over. They will revolt. Right. Again, this is the element happened with the Germany in World War I. You don't want that happening everywhere else, right? So back then, right, even then people realized that okay, this is our own people. In the end of the day, Confederacy lost, but we needed smooth things. So okay, let's like put statues of Confederate general and like respect them, show them respect. So everybody just their pride doesn't feel like it's destroyed. So they can, because pride is a big ass factor in society. In the end of the day, pride is the one thing people protect. You don't want to ruin that, right? Otherwise, there will be another civil war, 50 other civil wars. You need make sure there is no civil war. So that's what basically Federation is saying. Like people had to do that, right, to smoothen things over. But people are not going to realize that. People are like, how could you do that? Glorify someone like that. You sitting there in Starbucks with like drinking your coffee, chilling in AC, talking about something happened that long ago when you don't even realize what's the element of that.
That's to me.
No, because
it was almost like a generational gap, because there was like kind of a really brutal Reconstruction period, and then after that it was kind of like once the temperature of the room kind of chilled out a little bit. It was like, all right, we need to figure out how to move forward as a country more unified and stuff like that. We did get into in pretty deep detail the other day why I believe it was Woodrow Wilson.
No.
His you already know where that's going. His great love for Birth of a Nation and everything like that. We got into that with Jack Mandeville.
Oh no! When on podcast?
On podcast.
Oh shit!
Oh, that goes out tomorrow morning.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then we have one Saturday
or
Friday. Saturday for everyone else. Yeah.
No!
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch The Last Samurai tonight.
Good.
Oh, I might do that too. That's a good movie.
We're talking about Tom Cruise. Now we're talking about Japan.
Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai. Yeah, sure.
We got.
Not gonna lie, that was like an awesome movie. I still remember watching as a kid. It's one of those movies because it was on TV or something all the time. I don't know, but I watched a lot. And he's Tom Cruise. How do you not like Tom Cruise?
Drunk like fucking a year or two ago, and I'd never seen The Last Samurai. So
that's why you're doing the fucking recreation.
So good.
Yeah. We were watching it. I was like, damn, this movie slaps.
Get this man a Disney contract. He's never seen the movie. Have him do the recreation.
100%.
There you go.
But I was like, damn, this movie's fucking dope. So I was like,
Okay, Brandon Herrera would be the last person on this fucking planet who gets a Disney contract with everything his beliefs are. Disney's like, what? Just walking the other way. Just seeing his gun collection, I'm pretty sure they would just walk away.
I was pretty buzzed, so I was sitting there on my couch, and I bought a fucking Gatling gun that night.
Oh, is that why you have that
That
Gatling
is
gun?
why I have that Gatling gun. I've had it for like a year and a half. I haven't done dick with it because I've wanted to do a real, like a good recreation. I have a whole fucking bit. I have the armor.
Stop about the.
Hear me out.
Brandon Herrera buying a Gatling gun.
Okay.
Brandon Herrera also buy like time period accurate sword and
No,
armor.
fuck that.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
he did.
Oh, I went all out.
Let's run an experiment. You nerds can run your. Well, can we run 2 videos on your channel? We'll do them back to back. We'll see which one performs better. Okay. You guys can do your time accurate samurai armor bullshit with the Gatling gun. Okay. I get to pick the theme for the second video with the Gatling gun. We'll see which one performs better.
No. So, okay, I'm not doing a period accurate. It's literally for a fucking 30-second bit.
Yeah. Brandon just want to
But
run
I just
in
want to
on
fuck shit up with
Amorai.
a Gatling gun.
I bet my idea will outdo it.
What's your idea?
Hear me out.
We might have to cut this just in case I like it.
No, it's not bad at all. Here's the title.
Oh, I'm saying just in case I like it.
Which drill will
Yeah.
make a Gatling gun run faster? DeWalt versus Milwaukee.
So honestly,
And
it
we
is
just hook
putting
up with
them-
DeWalt drill versus the Milwaukee drill to the Gatling gun.
What do you like? Do you like DeWalt or Milwaukee? I had good experience with DeWalt, right? I'm a civil contractor. I've said it like these are the things I use. I don't know. I have good experience with DeWalt, but then again, some of my workers have used the other one. I don't know. So far, both were good. Like, is there a noticeable difference between those two? I don't know.
I didn't see which one
You're
shoots more
getting
fucking
so many
bullets.
communities, the construction workers are going to be like, damn.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Federation's idea would work better in YouTube. Which is the one thing that works better between those two? Like, which drill works better? I think that would do better because of this concept of like drill with Gatling gun type of thing. But then again, anything Brendan would do is gonna work, especially the Tom Cruise thing. Who knows? I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise thing would work better because even the people who never watch a gun video would watch that because of like that element, recreation of that movie type of thing. But yeah. For people, that was how the Emperor of Japan secretly held power. I don't know, it could be either way. I can see him not really holding power, but just people using them as a figurehead because he held social power. People actually saw him as God, so what he said did matter, but people actually blackmailing him internally, internal politics, who actually hold power and was threatening him with anything, maybe killing him or like removing him. And who knows, maybe even threatening, like, you know, country would collapse if you die and we don't care about that. Are you sure you want to do this? And he's just like, okay. You know, if I'm not going to have power, like, might as well stay alive and keep the country together. Who knows? It could be anything. So I don't know if Federation's, element works here. Like, all this, like, article and constitution, whatever they had, means that he had absolute power. That just means technically he has power. But what if somebody's, like, internally holding more power? It could be. There's enough history like that in everywhere, not in Japan, implying that could happen. So I don't know. I didn't know that there's actual saying that Emperor didn't held any power. But yeah, but also like Federation said, could be true as well. Like US is smoothing things over, so there is no trial or something. But they could just say like, okay, we can't put him on trial because he's literally God-like figure in Japan. If we want to bring Japan together with us, we don't want to destroy Japan completely. So yeah, so people would have understood. I don't know. Right? If you like my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.